What's up, guys? Jason Fernandez here, aka Reno of the FXBG Turks. I'm coming at you today with the first episode of Local Heroes. This is a segment that I've been trying to get going for quite a bit now. We've mentioned it a couple times on the podcast, and I've been promising it would come out. Working with everyone's schedules to get people here is a little difficult, but we finally got the first episode off the ground, and hopefully we'll get the rest coming out soon. This episode features Travis Hart of the Cauldron. You'll learn a lot about the Cauldron in this episode, so please stay tuned because there's a very special event announcement at the very end. Hope you enjoy. So here I have Travis Hart, aka Teej. Everyone here knows him as the master of the Cauldron, which we will go into later. But first things first, I want to ask, what brought you into the Final Fantasy trading card game? What solidified it for you to stay around?
Well, namely your candy ass.
Here you go. I'm gonna soak this up.
Absorb that aura. Praise be. But truthfully, yeah, man. I mean, like I was playing a lot of Final Fan. Like, not scratch that out. Not yet. I wasn't playing Final Fantasy, but like I was playing a lot of Magic: The Gathering. Coming to your hobby place. I'm really stoked on the whole EDH format that came out at that point in time.
I was all there with you.
Yeah, that singleton format was delicious, and I was like, oh, I love it. But there were certain aspects to me, like, I mean, of course, Magic is just the resource system is immensely antiquated, and it really came into bearings when you started talking about Final Fantasy. Like, I was just buying packs of Magic, and you're just like, Final Fantasy is pretty lit. I'm like, is it?
Yep.
Oh yeah. And of course, obviously, you said a little bit more than what.
Well, I told you I dropped Magic completely.
Yeah, that was a pretty good indicator. I was like, oh damn, and I was like, okay. So I stuck it out a little bit more for EDH, but ultimately I came to Final Fantasy and sweet mother of pearl, that shit was like, I was like, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. You got your stasis abilities, you got your ways of like creating aggro board states. You have ways of working within mid range, so it caters to all like prototypical degrees of like playing card games. Like, so it was a pretty smooth transition, admittedly, coming from Magic: The Gathering. But I mean, at the end of the day, what really made me stay was the community itself. Like the people I met, like out of the gate, I met you, I met Adam Street. I met Austin D, by the way. Where,
little brother of the community.
Have you heard the story? Yeah.
Shout outs.
But outside of that, I mean, also, of course, I met Curtis, I met Steven. I met Kyle. Kyle was one of the first people I saw there. He's a pretty easily identifiable person because of the backpacks he uses.
Right.
Like, he has very trademark, and also the play mats, but also titty lock.
Titty lock,
Kansas. But that's a completely different experience. But getting back to like everything I enjoyed about Final Fantasy, or currently still do enjoy about Final Fantasy, and the game state of itself is really just it's an extremely balanced game.
Right.
And I mean extremely balanced.
It's definitely one of the most well-balanced games in card games I've played.
Yeah, by far. And I mean, I come from like a pretty sparse hoop of shit. Back in like 1990 something, I was playing the Pokemon TCG when it first came out, doing the grow leagues there. They gave you badges and shit like that. Just like, oh, you're Pokemon master. But during the first 150, during like Fossil and all that development, then I moved into, of course, Magic again. Magic has always been a great game, but in terms of resources, there's no way of saying it nicely. It's antiquated as shit. Unless, I mean, admittedly, with like rocks and stuff they pushed out and stuff, it made it a better game. But there's really nothing like Final Fantasy, and that's why Final Fantasy will always be a mainstay in my CCG or TCG card usage in games I play. Admittedly, I also like Force of Will, but Final Fantasy is so immensely different from that game. I don't even want to make comparisons.
Right.
Moving forward, I would say the biggest stay for me was that undoubtedly the community. There's literally no community that is like the Final Fantasy community.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the fact of the matter that most of the lore is hard set in the video game, that the vast majority of people have known for like an echelon, or if it's something greater. But there is no card gaming community, and I've dabbled in the Dragon Ball Super community a little bit as well. That really measures in comparison to that of the Final Fantasy community.
Right. Yeah, the community is a lot of people's drive to keep sticking with it, and that's a great, just for Final Fantasy in general, that's something we'd like to tote about here in Fredericksburg and RVA and all of the East Coast, is that we're just really good at this whole community growing thing, and we're going to keep sticking to it, which is very important, especially when you run these events and have them at such great stores, which nothing but love for the two of us. Which brings us into the stores and the loyalty that we have towards the stores, such as your hobby place. That's another big thing that we want to go into is the store loyalty. What about that has helped you with the community?
So when it came to Final Fantasy, it was pretty clear who I was gonna stick with in terms of and it's actually a decision and I know this is actually a struggle with a lot of communities is actually finding a local game store. But I am so duly benefited, and I say duly as I'm privy to it and I'm deserving of it. But ultimately, what I'm saying is, I live in this almost Bermuda Triangle of game stores. There's Game Garrison,
right?
In my opinion, they definitely cater more so towards the miniature systems and all that. They ran a system for a little bit, and I enjoyed what they did on Saturdays, but that started to trickle down. And, obviously when something starts to trickle down, you start looking elsewhere. But before even Game Garrison's little Saturday thing, there has always been the Sunday tournament at your hobby place. And that has always been something I look forward to. Admittedly, I haven't been able to get to it as much as I had been in the past, but that's for very separate differences.
Right.
But excuse me.
Yeah, you could. The beer bubbles.
When it comes to birthplaces, though, when it comes to the game, is definitely your hobby places weekly. So with that, what I found most profound about those weeklies was the diverse nature of people that came there. I almost sounded Irish there for a hot second, but so you have people like Curtis, right? I didn't know before I actually talked to Curtis that he stemmed from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any of the other players, for example, Kyle or Steven. That was just extremely interesting stuff. And then you have people like Austin and Adam that came from Pokemon. The thing is what Final Fantasy does, and I say that in present tense because it still does, straight up, is it brings people from completely separate pools of card games together, because at the end of the day it makes sense and it sounds like a fun time.
Right. You've got different people.
It makes sense and it sounds like a fun time, and
all the different people from different communities clashing into one. It's great because you have different personalities from these different separate communities. You have all the just different play styles that come from these people that are playing different games. Austin, for example, very aggressive because of the Pokemon state.
Oh yeah.
And you've got Magic players that want to play the really technical decks. And Yu-Gi-Oh players, same. They're right there with the technical decks, and they want to know what they can do with their decks that relate to what they formerly played.
Because they're used to no bounds.
Right.
And then you have and that was a good idea, not recommendation. What's the fucking word? Whatever. Fucking Austin's prior plays, as a Pokemon player and as somebody who played Pokemon at the super freaking early stages of life.
Right.
When the Haymaker Hitmonchan deck was a thing. But those type of deck, cause first of all, Pokemon's a type of game where you really don't have that degree of interrupt. So yes, you should be rushing
down
the finish line. When you try to do that in Final Fantasy, you can certainly take that style in. That's what makes the aggro viable. It's effectively, if you're able to get 2 points damage in and then you're able to race them to damage, you're going to win.
Right.
Unless you're able to caper out and add an additional damage to you at a point where you're not really prepared for it, and you have no point to actually counterbalance and then gain the race back on your hand. Otherwise, the shift between who came first and who came second in dealing that last point of damage is utterly pivotal.
Right.
And I mean, that's another thing I love about Final Fantasy. Is it's also one of those games where it's you have to deal with 7 points of instance where you have a measure of resource and you also have a degree of deficit. No matter which way you look at it, it's a matter of how you play it, but that's always an option to you. Then you also have your hand. You're looking at your hand and you're just should I do this? Should I not? Alternatively, I could do this and discard this and be able to play this. And this is particularly important during, like, say, like turn 2 when you're looking at a backup you played on turn 1 and you have a 3-drop and you're just like, do I really need this right now? And I have a 3 of it. Discard that, play that turn, like that 3-drop backup, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
You also are keeping up on the resource pace.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things about Final Fantasy, and it's really hard to pinpoint on the one that kept me with it.
Right.
Long story short.
Yeah.
Should have said that initially, but here we are.
I mean, no, it is what it is. How it goes down. I mean, Final Fantasy has so much different love from different aspects. I mean, that's why we're all here. That's why we're doing these content creation channels, and we're going into such in depth about community building because we want the game to remain and we want other people to experience it. And overall, like, the community is very welcoming. A lot of the community members are open to good ideas. Events, like, people like yourself always gave me good input when running events at your hobby place, and we've been featuring new ideas and going into more in-depth events that we plan to do further ahead, which we will touch base on that soon in this episode. Sub tournaments, for example, something that Travis does on the side, and which brings me to the fact people have been asking. Murmurs have been happening through our community, some in RVA, some within Fredericksburg, about the Cauldron. And what to you, or what in general, what is the Cauldron?
Well, progressively over time, the Cauldron just became a collective of friends. It originally started as a way of avoiding a degree of, and I hesitate to say this because it's no longer relevant now, and I know so for a fact. It's no longer relevant now, but there was at a time within our local community where there's a degree of toxicity, just like, I wouldn't say espousing, but just encompassing, perhaps enveloping. And that wasn't just based on the subject, that's just general burps.
Right.
Remember, first and foremost, I'm a lush. Straight up a fucking lush. Hope this is an R to PG-13 type of thing.
We're raw, man.
Alright, raw dog. Praise me. Alright, I'm just going to shift everything a little bit hardcore right here. But so fucking no, it's never been about like anything but trying to get people away from something they didn't want to be around. Like, there was a degree of toxicity within the community that was affecting like more than 7 people, and that sounded terrifying. At least to me. And I was like, well, we don't want that to happen, because it was almost detractor worthy. And the way I perceive a detractor is somebody that's like on the verge of tears. So what it came about to be and then what it ultimately came to be are 2 entirely separate things. So with the well intent of strictly just creating, this system where in which we were having people come over, we were starting like I don't want to call it a sub community, but in essence it undoubtedly was. But it was more so an offering out to certain people that weren't feeling as though they're best at home in the opening.
Right. Now it gives
in the field. So
it gives. From when I go to the Cauldron, I've frequented it quite a bit, and it feels to me that it's a very open source place to go. It's like a safety place. It's like a place a
safe zone, I guess. Maybe the word, but I hesitate to use that word. Right. But I feel like you're.
I'm on that track. I'm trying to say, like,
undoubtedly,
like, it's a place for people to go where they can feel more comfortable. The problem, I wouldn't even say it's a problem. The greatest, every great thing has a downside to it. Greatest thing about the Final Fantasy community is it's very open and welcoming to everybody from all different backgrounds, all different like states of mind, all that stuff. So you're bound to get toxicity eventually. You're bound to get these people that just think a different way, especially when it comes to really highly competitive stuff. And it's something.
And immensely sorry to interject.
No, you're good.
But like, and that's immensely true. Like, because there's a lot of people that pulled from communities that weren't even card game based.
Right.
Like, we had people come from Smash. We had people that were coming from what's it called? Neither here nor there though, but like nonetheless, still
just other games.
People come from games, and like there's a degree of mannerism that's ascertained and just gained by just general experience that really just can't be accounted for on the forefront. And it's not. There's no hardships held against anybody else. Or anybody, rather, specifically speaking, on an individual format. But simply put, that's how it started. but what it became was almost like a family.
Yeah.
And that's all I can really say about that. It became a family, and it's something I do every Friday.
Yep. Yeah, the Cauldron has become the outsource of. It's another place for the community to go outside of the regular Sunday competitive events. I think it's a great outlet for a lot of players, especially people that can't make Sundays. It's another place for them to go. The downside is it started off very small, and it was it's remotely 21 and up. So as you know, venues the venues do not provide alcohol, and people can be more relaxed in an environment where they can have a couple drinks, and it's just a lot easier for people to socialize. As you know, a lot of these hobby shops have very antisocial people that come together, and they're just trying to experience a social environment with people more like themselves, and it's great all around when there's sub communities that happen in the event that people can't go to those.
Yeah.
And for me, the Cauldron has been a great source for the community. It's a community within a community, and the community stays together still. That's what I enjoy about it. It's like you've got people that are going to the Cauldron, and then they'll practice there, and then come to Sundays and play it out. They'll test out their deck, stuff like that.
That's really what it was all about.
Yeah.
And there was a time, and this is no longer the time, that there used to be an additional event. We used to have an Eve event where in which like it was just probably the most hardcore of people would show up, and for the most non-hardcore of reasons. Like, we would just be like hanging around, shooting the shit, just fucking around, doing our own damn thing. It didn't matter. It didn't really matter at all. Like, shit, like, we can have like one of our boys like messing around with a Force of Will deck while we're playing the Final Fantasy game. We'll be like, well, maybe Glen of Insight isn't the best play on turn 3 at this point, blah blah blah. Let's not go into like Exerted Jardet from there on forward. But we provide this degree of system in which we can talk to one another to a degree of expanse that just feels good. Like we're okay with the feedback we receive from one another,
right?
Because there's this familial ground set established, and it's weird. Ultimately for me, it's weird because it's so welcoming, and it's honestly like, and admittedly, Eve was something I definitely duly missed, but we had to do it when, we had to provide, a degree of grace to those who also live with me that aren't me.
Right.
I don't own my own place currently, but this all actually does not take place at a venue.
Right.
This all takes place in a split level, dual ranch type of home style, and I own a certain portion of it, and that's where this takes place. There probably will be footage here on the Turks side eventually of what the Cauldron necessarily entails, and you'll see it then, or you'll see it before.
Right.
We have no idea.
Yeah, it'll pop up eventually. We'll figure something out.
Yeah. Long story short, it's good times for everybody, and really, it's just all about living life to your fullest, being able to participate with people. Like we play rather interesting sub tournaments though. Like, so I'll take a moment to just talk about a few of them. Like, I'll talk about them in a chronological order. Initially, when Cauldron started, there was this on and off like turn type, right? So like, and this very, very, very well. Where like, you had no idea what's happening this Friday until like Monday or Wednesday thereof.
Yeah.
And that's mostly because of my procrastinating candy ass and the clandestine secret group that's on Facebook. And yes, that is clear, but I also want to like further stress something that Jason said earlier. Yes, mind, soul, and body. It's really a 21 and up thing. Like, if you're not part of it right now, it has nothing to do with you as a player. Yeah. In most cases, literally straight up, it has to do with age.
Yeah, it's to protect him and his household. You have to understand.
If it was in like a neutral ground area in which something was able to be viable there, and that's certainly something that would be a workable space in the future, perhaps.
And
it's just not
a lot closer than you think.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which actually segues into the great reason why we're actually doing this interview alongside of getting people an insight on the Cauldron. Is we have a very special announcement coming up that we're
so we're just gonna drop it down now.
Yeah, we're gonna drop it like the bomb.
All right. So there's a degree of Cauldron experience here at play, and before I say what Jason's prefacing to, and best believe you don't want to stop listening until this happens. There's something that happens so every other week. Originally it was every week for the month of August, but we moved it to every other week. There's something we have called Feast and Famine, and there's a pool and prize system we call the plushie pool.
Mm-hmm.
Now the plushie pool at the Cauldron works at a 1 to 3 scale, so first, second, third, based on that very same priority, get options to look at the very much Square Enix official plushie pool and take what they want from it.
Yep. As you can see behind us, we have Tomberry.
We have a little Tomberry. Stand back while I practice my salmon. Yeah, that motherfucker right there. So, what I'm trying to basically articulate here is that these things, these range from anywhere from 1999 or 95 to about 80 to 120 bucks.
Yeah, these things are not cheap because they're official Square Enix products that are available only at Square Enix. It's an exclusive store product. Yes. Anything you find online could be a knockoff, so you have to be careful when ordering these things.
And you especially want to avoid what is called fantasy card.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them. I know they exist, and they're called fantasy card. If you see them on Amazon and it says fantasy card on it, and they'll say it in extremely bold letters as though it was something to be proud of, it's a knockoff.
Yep, it's not the quality you're going to get.
Do not mess with fantasy card. You can mess with Toke, you can mess with Square Enix, but do not mess with fantasy card. That being said, so the plushie pool is a system where in which the first, second, and third player at Cauldron has the opportunity to take something based on the priority. So first player gets first choice that day, second, and so it repeats. Now that's going to actually change going forward, where it's the first to fourth. But that also change is going to translate over into what I'm about to announce in partnership with Your Hobby Place, a store that I've strictly, and I mean strictly, bought all my product from.
Bless.
In terms of Final Fantasy, straight up. I'm announcing the Cauldron Cup, November 10th of 2018. You're going to see a crazy cup here happen at Your Hobby Place. And this is the first public experience for the Cauldron, because it is the Cauldron Cup, but at the same time, it is very much an affiliate communal property between us and Your Hobby Place.
Yep. The sub-communities and the main communities are coming together at Your Hobby Place to bring the experience of the Cauldron that a lot of people have missed out on because they didn't know about it. It's been very, on the side.
It's borderline Illuminati type of shit. Yep. I'm not going to front. Okay, I get it, but you're not 21. And I'm just, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But this way, we have the opportunity to provide, at the very least, about 2/3 of the experience of what is essentially the Cauldron experience to everybody. And we're going to do so at a large scale. It's an extremely large scale. And Your Hobby Place is going to make it possible for us to provide pack per win for this event. So if you're traveling from PA, North Carolina, or Maryland,
or anywhere on the East Coast,
literally anywhere, it's shit. You can. I love to see some of those Ice Earth motherfuckers from California come over.
Yeah.
Or hell, even some of the the Lightning Earth folks.
Yeah. Any of you guys want to come by? I mean, it's going to be worth your trip because the prize support is going to be so stellar. You've got the prize support. I can't wait to announce the prize support. We're not going to go into huge detail today. I mean, whatever he wants to provide for us, we're going to hear. But I do know that it's going to be really awesome, and it's going to be worth it's going to be a bang for your buck, because we're not only that, I'm happy to announce that we're going to be doing it $20 an entry fee, and that's really low.
That's big.
It's a very low turnout, because you get pack per win, and even if you get a complete blowout, you're still going to get a pack regardless. We're probably going to give you a promo. We've got lots of stuff that we're giving out. It's a very big community thank you to the Final Fantasy community, and it's a big entrance into the Cauldron lifestyle, which is what we've been talking about today. So it's really exciting. And anything else you want to touch base on the Cauldron Cup?
Yeah, I'll add a little pieces. So going off what my man here said, there's a few things I do want to announce, and that's the fact of the matter of that system I was telling you about, that plushie pool system. That comes out into the exterior world. So effectively, players 1 through 4, they'll have the opportunity to choose a plushie out of the plushie pool, which is 16 deep, by the way. 16 freaking plushies.
16 different plushies to choose
That's
from.
not. There's not even 16 plushies available on the Square Enix sites right now, and I'm part of the reason for that. You're only able to order one each, by the way, and I feel like anybody who knows plush knows that. That's all you're able to order.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't apply to me. But we'll get to that in a far later episode.
Right. Square Enix works really well with this man. Let's just say that. We'll say that enough.
Strictly that. Yeah. Anything else you have to say?
Basically, we're going to shoot for a 2 p.m. Showing on November 10th. That's going to be our start time. The prize support, like I said, is going to be fantastic. It's going to be huge. Well worth the money you're going to put down. It's going to be worth the experience. Your hobby place is well known for giving a good experience when you come to our events. It's going to be a really good time, and I hope every one of you that's watching this video decides to come out. We will have an event posted up eventually soon on Facebook, probably here by the beginning of October. I want to say we'll have that up. And
There's one more thing I will say.
Yes.
So, because of the exclusive Cauldron experience, whoever gets top four, they are honorary impermeable members of the Cauldron. So if they're ever in Virginia, if it's a Friday or one of our other functioning days that I have not yet disclosed, you are more than welcome to come out.
Yep, you will have
and
your
you'll also
invite.
be invited to the group. Yes, because
so top
it's
four.
very much Illuminati type of stuff.
Right, top
like
four.
If it was a Machiavelli talking about it, he's talking about it now.
Yeah, if you get top four and you're not amongst the already crowd that goes to the Cauldron, you will get that invite.
Mind, soul, and body.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything for our episode. Once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm Jason Fernandez, aka Reno. Travis Hart
of the Cauldron.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.